In 1918, the British Empire stood at its peak. 1/4 of the world's landmass was painted red. Its navy ruled the oceans. Its currency ruled global trade. People said, the sun never sets on the British Empire. And yet, less than 50 years later, that empire was gone. Not defeated in battle. Not invaded. Not conquered. So what happened? How did the most powerful empire in human history collapse without losing a single decisive war? The answer is simple and terrifying. Backhand index pointing right debt. This is the story of how debt quietly strangled the British Empire, and how economic power replaced military power forever. By the late 19th century, Britain was not just a country. It was the global system. London was the world's financial capital. The pound sterling was the world's reserve currency. Over 60% of global trade moved on British ships. India funded the empire. Africa supplied raw materials. The Middle East secured energy routes. Britain didn't just rule territory. It ruled money. But behind this image of limitless power was a hidden weakness. The empire looked rich, but it was running on borrowed money. In 1914, Europe descended into war. British leaders believed victory was guaranteed. After all, Britain had the strongest navy, the largest empire, the deepest financial markets. But modern industrial war was different. War now meant mass artillery, mechanized transport, global supply chains, and all of it cost unimaginable amounts of money. By 1917, Britain had sold much of its gold reserves, drained its foreign assets, borrowed heavily to survive, and the lender of last resort was no longer London. It was New York. For the first time in history, Britain became a debtor to the United States. The center of global finance quietly began to shift. Britain won the war in 1918, but economically it was exhausted. The government now faced massive war debt, rising interest payments, a collapsing industrial base. Instead of adapting, Britain made a fatal decision. In 1925, it returned the pound to the gold standard. This decision locked Britain into an overvalued currency. Exports became expensive. Factories closed. Unemployment soared. The empire still looked powerful on maps, but its economy was slowly suffocating. For centuries, colonies had funded Britain's rise. Now they became a burden. Maintaining the empire required troops, administrators, infrastructure, repression of growing nationalist movements. India, Egypt, Iraq. Resistance was spreading everywhere. Empire was no longer profitable. It was expensive, but pride delayed reality. Britain chose to maintain control through debt rather than accept decline. In 1939, war returned. This time, Britain had no financial reserves left. To survive, it turned entirely to the United States. The solution was the Lend-Lease Agreement. America supplied weapons, food, fuel, but this aid was not free. In return, Britain surrendered overseas military bases, economic independence, post-war influence. By 1945, Britain had technically won the war, but economically it was finished. Rationing continued into the 1950s. Cities lay in ruins. The empire was unsustainable. In 1946, Britain took one final step. It accepted a $4.3 billion loan from the United States, the largest loan in history at the time. The conditions were devastating. The pound had to become convertible. Capital controls were lifted. Britain accepted American financial leadership. This loan locked Britain into decades of repayment. Incredibly, Britain finished paying off its World War II debt in 2006. Yes, 60 years after the war ended. Debt didn't just delay recovery. No invasion was needed. No occupation required. Power shifted peacefully from Britain to America. London lost its status as the world's financial center. New York replaced it. The pound was replaced by the dollar. The British Empire gave way to the American-led world order. This was the first empire in history defeated primarily by economics. The British Empire did not collapse overnight. It collapsed gradually through interest payments, budget deficits, and financial dependence. The lesson is clear. Empires no longer fall to armies alone. They fall to debt. Military power wins wars. Economic power decides history. Today, empires look different. They aren't marked by red territories on maps. They're marked by balance sheets, interest rates, and reserve currencies. The British Empire believed it could borrow its way out of decline. Couldn't. And the question remains, will today's great powers learn from this lesson or repeat it?